Welcome to Trig. We're going to start off by refreshing our memories about angles. The first thing that we have when we have angles is a line, and a line continues in both directions forever. A line segment has two endpoints and contains all the points in between those two. And then we have a ray. It's kind of like putting a line segment and a line together. We have one endpoint, and then it extends in one direction continuously forever. We always name the ray with the endpoint first, and then another point on that ray. The line can be named AB or BA. The line segment can be named AB or BA. But the ray can only be named AB, because the A implies that that is the endpoint. So when we put two rays together and we join the endpoints, we form an angle. The horizontal side is called the initial side. The terminal side is the side that moves. When we have an angle whose terminal side moves counterclockwise, we have a positive angle. When we have an angle whose terminal side rotates clockwise, we have a negative angle. And our vertex is where the two rays join. Now down here, we have an acute angle, and that's an angle, hopefully you remember from geometry, that's between 0 degrees and 90 degrees, not equaling 90 degrees, or 0 for that matter. And that little guy is called theta. Theta is a Greek letter that we typically use to represent the measure of an angle. And we'll be using that a lot in this class. Here's a right angle, and that's exactly 90 degrees. Remember the labeling or the notation for a right angle is the little box inside the angle. Here we have an obtuse angle, and then that's an angle whose measure is between 90 and 180, and not including the 90 degrees or the 180 degrees. Because remember, a 90-degree angle is a right angle, and a 180-degree angle is a straight angle. It makes a straight line. Now hopefully you remember what complementary angles are, but in case you don't, remember they're two positive angles whose sum is 90 degrees. So that's two acute angles whose measures add up to 90 degrees. So if you put them together, they form a right angle. And supplementary angles are two positive angles whose sum is 180 degrees. So you could have an acute angle and an obtuse angle, and you put them together and they make a straight angle. One tip to remembering the difference between the two, or which one's which, because that's a common mistake. If you give someone a compliment, you're telling them what they're doing right. So complementary angles form a right angle. Also, complementary comes first in the alphabet, and then supplementary. And 90 degrees comes first on a number line, and then 180. Also, complementary starts with a C. Well, if you put two C's together and you turn one backwards, you form an S. So two C's form an S. Two 90-degree angles form a 180-degree angle. Those are just a few ways of remembering which one is which, because that's terminology that you'll need to know. So let's use that terminology to solve these two problems. Example 1. Find the measure of each angle in the figures below. So figure A shows two angles, one whose measure is 7m degrees and the other whose measure is 8m degrees, and together they form a 90-degree angle. So they are complementary. So we're going to take our 8m plus 7m and let that equal 90 degrees. So we have 15m equals 90. Divide both sides by 15. So m equals 6. So then we take that 6 and we plug it back in. So 8 times 6 is 48 degrees, and 7 times 6 is 42 degrees. So we have a 48-degree angle and a 42-degree angle. And if we were to add those back together, we do get 90 degrees. So that's one way of checking yourself to make sure you did it correctly. Then we have figure B, 11K plus 7 degrees and 6K plus 3 degrees. Together, those two angles form a straight line or a straight angle. So we take those and we add them together, and we let them equal 180. So we have 17K when we combine our like terms, plus 10 equals 180. Subtract the 10 over, and we have 17K equals 170. And then when you divide by the 17, you get K equals 10. So when we plug that back in, we get 117 degrees and 63 degrees. And when you add those two together, they do add up to 180, so we know we're right.